Should we dive into Dave Filoni? Or Dave full of baloney is what we're going to call him moving forward. I felt so guilty because, all right, so if you haven't listened to Tano Cast, obviously this isn't going to make sense to you, but going into Ahsoka, I shared with Robbie that you don't need to see Rebels. You don't need to see Clone Wars. In fact, some Star Wars executive threw out there that, it's not necessary. Just watch Ahsoka as it is. And we both finished the first 2 episodes thinking we've made a massive mistake. Like, we should have watched Rebels. And I went the entire week thinking, like, did I make that up in my head? Because I definitely feel like I saw an article that said it, but like I couldn't figure out who the executive was. And we literally just talked about this on the last episode. Why don't you share with everybody which Disney executive and Star Wars executive said you don't need to watch Rebels?
So Mr. Dave, full of baloney,
Yes.
right here on looper.com is where I'm getting this. According to Filoni himself, when asked, do you need to see any of Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, in order to understand Ahsoka? And it says, Mastermind Dave Filoni. According to Filoni himself, the answer is none.
All right, stop right there. Stop right there. Okay. We live in 2023, okay? And we live in the world of clickbait articles, and we're going to take things out of context. Understand, I just heard that comment. That's all I read. Now, if I would have known, he would have had a but at the end of it. Carry on.
I don't even think it's a but. Like, he just straight up says none. None. Do you need to have watched any of Star Wars Rebels to understand Ahsoka? The answer is none. Period. That's all it says. Just kidding. Now, it says when the showrunner was asked, he said you wouldn't need to watch any, although he quickly added, you really should. And then he says, while the new series is intended to play just fine for audience with no Rebels familiarity, Filoni did recommend a few specific parts of the show for anyone who wants a more complete experience. If you just watched season 4, he says, you'd be set. So, I mean, we kind of talked about it in the Ahsoka or Tano cast that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of that plays into the emotions that you experience with this show, with the Ahsoka show.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to like, hey, you don't need to watch any of Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 to understand the Obi-Wan series, but you really should. Like, could you make an argument there?
Well, yeah, but here's the issue there, and like this is me getting like deep in the weeds.
All right,
Obi-Wan,
hold on, let me get comfortable. Here we go.
All right, Obi-Wan at least had a recap in the beginning, and it was a badass recap if you remember.
Hell yeah,
yeah. So if Ahsoka would have just done that and just said like, "Here's what you need to know," I feel like that 90% of the complaints out there would be gone. But like, I legit thought that quote came from somebody like, just somebody at Lucasfilms, just some random PR agent who was trying to make more people watch it. But when you told me it was Dave Filoni, I was like, how can the creator of that literally just be like, yeah, you don't need to see that? I'm like, dude, you're so involved with this show. Like, you have to have known that, like, you definitely should. You definitely should watch it. And I still stand by that. Watch Rebels before you watch Ahsoka.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that unfortunately kind of goes for a lot of shows. You know, if you're going to be watching these, I don't want to say spin-offs, but it's almost like if you're going to watch an expansion of a story, why not, you know, fully understand the story? Why don't you go back and watch it? I mean, and the thing is like I'm watching Ahsoka. I haven't seen Rebels, but I feel like I know enough to kind of know who Ahsoka is. Mm-hmm. Apparently, you know, not all people out there believe that you need to watch the history of a show in order to understand a new and upcoming show. Maybe he was afraid that if he had said, yes, you need to, maybe he was afraid people wouldn't watch it.
Or Mickey Mouse would take him behind the shed and beat the crap out of him.